Earlier we looked at the if statement, which is a control flow statement that allows us to make decisions. Now we're going to move to another type of control flow statement that allows us to perform repetition, which is just repeating a block of code over and over again. A better name for repetition is looping, and in this chapter we're going to look at two types of loops, the while loop and the for loop. We're going to start with the while loop. Let me pull up the general form of a while loop. The while loop consists of the keyword while followed by a relational expression. This is the same type of relational expression we used in if statements. After the relational expression, we have an open curly brace, which signifies the beginning of the statement body for the while. The statement body can consist of, well, actually 0 or more statements. Now that's kind of silly because there's going to be at least one. But you can have as many statements as you want to have. One key to a while loop, though, is that one statement in the body must cause the relational expression to become false, because the while loop will run as long as the relational expression is true. So if there wasn't a statement that made the relational expression become false, the while loop would run forever, or in what we call an infinite loop. So somewhere in the statement body must be some type of statement that will cause the relational expression to become false. Let's look at a very simple example as an introduction to while loops. Let's say we want to display the phrase "Hello World" 10 times on the screen. Yes, it's silly, but it provides the key ingredients we need to examine a while loop. The first thing we need is a variable that will help us keep track of how many times our loop is run. Again, we want to run the loop 10 times to display "Hello World" on the screen 10 times. So we'll introduce a variable named count as an integer and assign its value to 1. We start the while loop with the keyword while. The relational expression will be used to examine the value of count so that when it becomes greater than 10, the statement should become false. So we're going to say while count is less than or equal to 10. Notice that count starts out at 1, so we can have values of count from 1 through 10. After the relational expression, we can put the opening curly brace, which we did with if statements. Yes, we could drop down to the next line for the opening curly brace, but again, I like to try to save a little bit of space by putting the open brace on the same line as the while keyword. The body of the loop is where we get our work done, so in this particular example, all we're going to do is display "Hello World," so we'll write it out now. End L. And that's it for the work we want to get done in the loop. However, we're missing one key part. We need a statement that will make the relational expression become false. The only way we can make the relational expression become false is increment count so that it becomes 11, which is not less than or equal to 10. So we can do that by simply incrementing count by 1 each time, which is what we want to do because we want the loop to run 10 times, displaying "Hello World." That's all we need for the statement body, so we can close the body here, and now we're ready to build and run the program. And there we have "Hello World" displayed 10 times. Before we end, let me define some terms I'm going to use throughout the rest of this chapter on loops. The loop will contain something called a loop control variable. That's normally inside the relational expression, although it doesn't necessarily have to be. In this case, count is that loop control variable. So when we're writing a for loop, we have to initialize the loop control variable outside the loop. That's what we do in the statement where we declare count and assign it the value 1. The next part of the loop is the relational expression itself. And like I said earlier, that usually involves examining the value of the loop control variable. But again, it doesn't always have to. So that's the second part. The third part is just whatever work it is you're trying to get done. That can be multiple statements. In this case, we're just trying to display "Hello World," so we only have one statement for the getting work done part of the loop. And then the last part of the loop that we have to have is some statement that makes the relational expression false. In this case, we can make the relational expression false by continually incrementing count until it becomes greater than 10. Just for fun, let's examine what happens if we don't include that statement in our program. We'll take it out by commenting it out. Now let's build and run the program. And you'll see that the program just runs continuously. It might run forever, except eventually we'd run out of resources on the computer that should cause it to crash. We don't want to get to that point, so we'll stop it here. So you see that the statement that makes the relational expression become false is important to a while loop. That pretty much covers everything we need to know about the pieces of a while loop. In the next video, we'll look at a particular type of while loop called the count-controlled loop.